And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. Welcome to Oklahoma Sports Scene, back at our home at the Wee Street Ice Center, just above the ice rink here, home of the Tulsa Oilers. Got a great show for you. Of course, a lot of excitement show about the Oklahoma victory over Alabama. It took 11 games, but the Sooners finally showed up. And in the nick of time, to upset two-touchdown favorite, number 7 ranked Alabama, and secure a winning season with a 24-3 victory and a 25th bowl trip. Tulsa World OU beat writer Eric Bailey will be here to talk about that amazing football contest for the Sooners. The University of Tulsa has fired their head football coach, Kevin Wilson, with just one game left in his second season with a 7-16 record. 9 of those losses, though, by 30 points or more, including last Saturday's 63-30 beatdown at South Florida. Tulsa World's TU beat writer Michael Peters is here with the latest update. Michael Knight reports on the quarterfinal round of the state high school playoffs and gives you this week's semifinal schedule. Following Jenks' 42-7 rout of its 6A1 crosstown rival Union High, Jenks head football coach Keith Riggs joins us right here on the set. But first, let's review the past weekend for our Big Four football teams. And we'll give you the grades as well. Of course, for Oklahoma, let's go A+++, as they beat Alabama 24-3. A season-saving dominant victory with the 7th-ranked two-touchdown favorite Crimson Tide. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State lost its 8th straight Big 12 game, giving up 56 points in their 56-48 home loss to Texas Tech. Head coach Mike Gundy, though, in his 18th season, announced after the game, "I'll be back. I'm not leaving like this." His return to Stillwater 2025. And Hurricane blown away, giving up a season-high 63 points, 715 yards, losing at South Florida 63-30. They got back home on Sunday morning. The University of Tulsa fired their head coach, Kevin Wilson. Arkansas, no problem. Louisiana Tech 35-14. Give the Hogs an A for that. They become bowl eligible with their 6th win. Just maybe save head coach Sam Pittman's job in Fayetteville. Here's the Big Four football schedule for this week, number 14. Oklahoma State plays at Colorado this Friday morning at 11 a.m. on ABC. Saturday, November 30th, Oklahoma is at LSU, 6 p.m. on ESPN. Florida Atlantic is at Tulsa for the final home game of the season for the Golden Hurricane. That's a 2:30 kickoff. It's on ESPN+. And Arkansas, Missouri, in that big rivalry, that's also 2:30 kickoff on the SEC network. Here's this week's 13th Associated Press College Football National Poll. Changes after some big upsets led by Alabama's, of course, defeat at OU. So the top 25, Alabama, Mississippi out of the top 10. Miami, SMU are in. Oregon remains unanimous number 1. Top 5 then are Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and newcomer Notre Dame. Georgia moved up 2 spots to number 6. Tennessee jumped up 3 spots to number 7. Alabama's upset loss at OU dropped the Tide 6 spots, down to 13th and out of the SEC championship game and likely out of the national playoffs. Per team down to 1 duck after 14 weeks on the 2024 football season. Only one team is left with a perfect record. That's number 1 ranked 11-0 Oregon. Both Indiana, number 5, and Army, number 18, lost this past week in their first loss of the season. Well, overall, it's been a miserable football season in Stillwater, in Norman, and in Tulsa. The state of Oklahoma does have a winner in Edmond. It's the University of Central Oklahoma Broncos with Coach Adam Durrell. Number 8, UCO beat number 9, Ouachita Baptist of Arkansas, 38-31 in overtime. For almost 4,000 fans in its home Chad Richardson Stadium in Edmond last Saturday to advance out of the second round of the Division II National Playoffs. UCO now 11-1 on the season will travel to Michigan this weekend to meet the number 1 seed Ferris State, so go Broncos. Gino Auriemma became the winningest coach in all of NC college basketball history, earning his 1,217th victory. Auriemma broke a tie with retired Stanford coach Tara Vanderveer for the most victories all time. Former Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski holds the men's record with 1,202. Auriemma began his journey with UConn in 1985. He's only had one losing season. That was his very first one with the Huskies. Tulsa's Ice Oilers hockey team opened a 3-game homestand this past Sunday against Utah, posted a dominant 5-0 shutout. Vyacheslav Budovets recorded his second pro shutout. Tyler Polson recorded his 150th career point. The Oilers went 3 for 4 on the power play, and Connor Roulette earned first multiple goal game in the 5-0 victory over the Grizzlies. The Oilers now will host Kansas City for 2 games, BOK Center Ice this Wednesday and Friday at 7:05. And it may be hockey season and winter arrives on December 21st, but the Tulsa Drillers are now selling single-game tickets for the 2025 Texas League baseball season. By the way, the first pitch, One Oak Field, mark it down, Friday, April the 4th. It should make you feel a little bit warmer anyway. Our Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame presented its Warren Spahn Award to the best left-handed pitcher in Major League Baseball. With easy sell, it was Chris Sale of the Atlanta Braves, the National League Cy Young Award winner, with 18-3 record, and the lowest ERA in all the majors, 2.38, and the most strikeouts in the National League, 225. 2025 Chili Bowl, that's auto racing's greatest indoor championship here in Tulsa at the Expo Square, reached the 100 entry mark in record time. Drivers from Australia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, and across the United States are committed to Chili Bowl number 39, January the 13th to the 18th. That following the 40th Tulsa Shootout, that's set for December 30th through January 4th. Next, so how did the Sooners do it? How did they roll the tide? Eric Bailey, Tulsa Roll OU beat writer, joins us to explain what happened and how they did it.
Pitch, Casey lines it down the left field line. Drillers win!
Baseball, fireworks, food, and family, it's all in Tulsa at One Oak Field. Score your Drillers season membership today with plans and prices fit for every fan. Whether you want to catch every game or select nights, we know you will have a great time at the ballpark. We're proud to offer a variety of membership options, so don't wait. Contact a Drillers rep who will personally help you find the right plan for you. It's all in Drillville for 2025.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
The Tulsa Oilers return to the ice for another ice-melting year.
He shoots, he scores!
Friday, November 29th, 7:05 at the BOK Center. The first 1,000 fans get a Tulsa Oilers beanie, and it's Teddy Bear Toss Night. Bring a new stuffed animal or teddy bear, and when the Oilers score their first goal, throw your bears on the ice. Don't miss the ultimate in fast-paced entertainment.
It's turned over and going the other way.
Get your tickets now at TulsaOilers.com. It's smash-mouth, hard-hitting, pulse-pounding excitement.
Ooh, I can feel that one.
Tickets at TulsaOilers.com. This is your town, your team, your Tulsa Oilers hockey are back.
As the sun rises over eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
You know, just 1 week ago, we had Eric Bailey, the OU beat writer for the Tulsa World, covered OU Sooners for over 20 years, here to kind of give us a post-mortem look like what was wrong with Oklahoma football. Well, they answered it against Alabama on Saturday night with a stunning victory. We asked Eric, how'd they do that?
You know, Chris, it was almost reminiscent of the 2013 season when Oklahoma was playing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. We walked into that stadium really expecting an Alabama blowout, and we really kind of expected Alabama to win this game pretty thoroughly, and Oklahoma outplayed Alabama all three phases, and just really impressive performance by Brent Venables' crew. It was one of those games where Oklahoma had a lot of pride to play for and just dominated that game from start to finish. Really impressive performance by the Sooners.
And in one game, 4 quarters, 60 minutes, it turned an entire season from a gloom and doom to, hey, we're a winning football team and we're going to a bowl game for the 25th consecutive season.
You know, I think this was a game that was really needed. I think it gives Sooner Nation a lot of hope. I think it gives the players a lot of hope, the recruits, the coaches, across the board. I think this was a game that was needed. And, you know, the crazy thing is it ended with a field storming. We haven't seen fans rush the field at Owen Field since 2000 when Oklahoma beat top-ranked Nebraska. And that celebrated OU being named the #1 team in the country. This celebrated a 5-5 team becoming bowl eligible. But I think there's been so much trouble this year, so much frustration, so much disappointed. I think this was just a release. I think Oklahoma fans needed something to celebrate. It's been so frustrating. And so for them to rush the field, I think it was just something, it was just pin-up frustration. They just wanted a reason to celebrate, and they got that. And so I think this brings hope, not only for the rest of this year, but for the years to come. It shows that Oklahoma is not dead. You're right. We did kind of bury them a couple of weeks ago on this broadcast. I think a lot of people have buried them, and people were starting to wonder, is Oklahoma going to be relevant? You see the storylines with Nebraska. You see some of the storylines with some of the other teams, and a lot of Oklahoma fans might have been worried that, is Oklahoma going to be the next Nebraska? I think this is a game that shows that no, don't count Oklahoma out yet.
I guess the SEC in their great wisdom decided the fans shouldn't celebrate and find the soonest, what was it, 100,000, 200,000, I've heard different figures, but worth every penny.
$200,000, and yeah, that was a rule that they put in a couple of years ago, where any field storming, you get fined $100,000, and Oklahoma got fined $200,000 because the fans rushed on the field before the game was over and they had to get everyone off, and then they got fined another $100,000 for the second field storming. So it was a $200,000 fine, and the interesting thing about that rule is that money goes to Alabama. So Oklahoma has to pay Alabama the money. So Alabama gets a $200,000 check from Oklahoma for the field storming. So I'm sure it's money well spent for Oklahoma. But yeah, it's Brent Venables joked at the end of the press conference, just take it out of my paycheck. So of course it was just a joke, I'm sure. But no, I just think that, again, it was something that we haven't seen at Oklahoma, in 24 years. So it was a celebration like none other.
Take us through the game, Eric. You outgained Alabama in the game, 325 to 234. Shout out Alabama for the entire first half, just dominated. And yet at the same time, we saw those scary moments of a fumble by a rookie running back and then a drop touchdown past the end zone. You kind of wondered, is this going to happen?
Yeah, and I think that was the big concern, because you really felt like it was going to happen again. Oklahoma fans have seen this story before. Oklahoma got into the red zone and lost the ball, and then Alabama goes down and takes a 3-0 lead, gets points off the turnover. And then, of course, they had the trick play that worked perfectly, except they dropped on fourth down. They dropped the ball in the end zone and leave points on the board. And Oklahoma's been so snake bit all year. You felt like that was 10 points that you really, at least 10 points that you left on the board against a tough Alabama team. But Oklahoma, the 4 of their first 5 possessions end up inside the Alabama 30. They just moved the ball so well. And meanwhile, the defense, Brent Venables' defensive staff, they did a really good job dialing up a great game plan. And just the way that Oklahoma was able to come out and really, from the start, play physical, especially on that offensive line. I was so impressed with the offensive line, with the way they were able to run the football. That was key. And you're right. Xavier Robinson, one of the exciting freshman running backs, he's really taken control. He's playing well above his years. And I think that's big too. The run game just really, they pounded the ball. They had as many rushing yards at halftime as Alabama had given up in an SEC game all year. And just Oklahoma's way to really physically dominate the game on both sides, offense and defense. I think that was the most surprising thing for everybody, especially against an Alabama team that people were talking about as a national championship contender.
Everybody, of course, been downplaying Jackson Arnold. What a mistake that was. And he's obviously not the quarterback we think he is. And who knew he could run like that? But all of a sudden, he ends up leading the Sooners. He had 131 yards rushing against, passing-wise, 9-11 passes, but again, just 68 yards. But it was his running that made the difference in the game, and the pretty good strategy against Alabama.
He almost had he almost had Barry Switzer type quarterback running yards. I mean, you look at some of Barry Switzer's running backs, and that's kind of what they did back in the day. And the big thing with Jackson Arnold on Saturdays, he took care of the football. 25 carries and never put the ball in jeopardy. And that was probably the game plan for Alabama's defensive coaches is, they said, go after the ball because he's prone to fumble. And that's one thing that he didn't do on Saturdays. He took care of the football, 2 hands around it, and protected the ball. And, who would have known when you had Milroe versus Arnold in that game that Milroe would be the quarterback that couldn't find creases, couldn't find positive yardage. Meanwhile, Arnold really ran through Alabama's defense, and that was what's impressive. And you're right, he only threw the ball 11 times, completed 9 of them, made throws when he needed to, kept Alabama's defense honest with his passing game. And that's all he needed to do was manage the football game. And that's exactly what he did. He was out. Everyone talks about him being out without his wide receivers. Well, he made use of the wide receivers that he did have. And late in the game, Brennan Thompson went out with an injury, and we don't know his status yet. That's something we really have to keep a track of going into the LSU game this weekend. So we'll see what happens there.
And of course, the defense was incredible. 3 interceptions, and all of them are really big plays.
The freshman, Eli Bowen, is going to be someone special to watch going forward. He really set the tone in the second half with the on the third play of the third quarter, put Oklahoma in great scoring position. And then Kip Lewis with the pick 6. It's second time this year, and the state of Alabama has to hate him because he did it against Auburn to win the game, and then he did it against Alabama to really slam the door on the Crimson Tide. But I think my favorite interception was the one that sealed it. Woody Washington, the 6th-year senior. You couldn't write a better script because this young man has been through the highs and the lows of OU football. He was a guy who played against LSU in 2019. He was young, true freshman. They threw him in a big-time college football game in the college football playoff. He was playing out of position, and they asked him to play safety. And he was part of that tough team that got torched by Joe Burrow, but he was playing out of position. He's went through COVID. He's went through a coaching transition, and here he is in his very last game at Owen Field, and he gets an interception. And it's been a couple of years since he got a pick, so I was really happy for Woody Washington to get a pick too. So those 3 plays were real essential in that win. So and the defense overall, they just played well. They held Alabama without a touchdown. Hats off to the defensive staff too for putting together a game plan that really worked well. The key to the game plan, the coaches told us afterward, was stopping Milroe, and they really did. They kept him off balance. They didn't let him have any explosive plays with his feet, which we saw a couple of weeks ago is how he killed LSU. So just a big-time game plan by Brent Venables and staff.
And that game marked the first time since 2011 that Alabama was shut out as far as the end zone, not scoring a touchdown. All right, Eric, so what are we expecting in Death Valley Saturday night? The game at LSU, and of course they're notorious for some wild antics there at night in the bayou there. So what are you expecting at LSU?
Heading into the Alabama game, I truly thought that LSU was OU's last chance to gain bowl eligibility. Well, now that's in your hip pocket, and I really think if Oklahoma can play at the caliber they played Alabama, I think Oklahoma has a chance in this game. Again, it comes down to the defense and just doing just enough on offense. It's going to be tough. Again, playing in Death Valley is always hard. I'm looking forward to it. I've never been to the stadium before, so I'm anxious to see it. But you just got to go in and do what you do. Run the football, get stops on defense. LSU did get a win this weekend, but it's been hard for them. It's been hard, tough sledding for them lately. They've lost 3 of 4. I just think if Oklahoma can play at the caliber they have been playing and use this momentum that they built. Even in the Missouri game, they played well. They just use that momentum that you built and on offense, running the football, ball control, play good defense. Good things can happen. So I think that's the key. And keep building this momentum. I know that don't forget the overall record. Forget that you're 6-5. Just build the momentum you built off the Alabama game, and good things will happen.
Tulsa World, OU beat writer Eric Bailey, and had a nice positive story on Sunday morning to read, Eric. Hope we'll have one next week as well. Thanks as always for joining us.
Chris, I appreciate it. Anytime, give me a call.
We're going to have one of your coworkers on with us next. Michael Peters, the TU beat writer. He's got some sad news to talk about as the University of Tulsa's fired their head football coach. That's straight ahead.
Thoroughbred season at Remington Park continues into December with plenty of winning primetime action. The final evening of the season will feature horses trying to reach the 2025 Kentucky Derby by competing in the Springboard Mile. Remington Park's top 2-year-old stakes event of the year leads a stakes-filled program. The normal Remington Park Racing Week is Wednesday through Saturday, first race nightly, 6:30 p.m. Special Monday and Tuesday racing happens in late November at 2:30 p.m. Visit RemingtonPark.com for all post times, group rates, and dining reservations.
Founded in 1960, Ed Bashira's Formal Wear and Fine Clothing has been dressing gentlemen for over half a century. We are family owned and operated, offering premium brand tuxedos and accessories at our Tulsa store on South Harvard. Bashira's also does made-to-measure suits, sports coats, dress shirts, and slacks, and a top line of sportswear. We do tailoring on-site to assure the perfect fit so you will look your very best for that special occasion. Ed Bashira's Formal Wear and Fine Clothing, an Oklahoma tradition.
Hi, this is Spencer Tillman, Fox Sports, and you're watching the Oklahoma Sports Scene.
The Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, home of the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award, is a treasure trove of memorabilia honoring Oklahoma sports legends. For museum hours or to schedule a tour, go to oklahomasportshalloffame.org.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
And we're back on Oklahoma Sports Scene. The breaking story Sunday morning in Tulsa and around college football was the firing of TU head football coach Kevin Wilson before he finished his second season. Michael Peters, the TU beat writer for the Tulsa World. Michael, give us some of the background of what happened.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I just think it was too many blowout losses. I think that this year they didn't do as well as they were supposed to. They should have been a lot better.
Yeah.
But what happened is just the compounded blowouts. I mean, they had the last one against South Florida where they lost, by 33, but they're down, big at 28 points in the first quarter, and it's just too much of that. And so they really didn't have a lot of choice, I don't think, to make that decision, because I think the fan base was starting to turn on Kevin Wilson a little bit. I think people, his personality, I think initially maybe rubbed some people the wrong way. They didn't think he was a good fit to begin with. And then when you compound that with a 7-16 start in his first 23 games, you really lose the fan base. And then the other thing that happened, hey, if Rick Dixon is still the athletic director there, they probably give him at least one more year to turn it around, given the true freshman that he's playing.
Right.
But because it's a new athletic director, Justin Moore just got hired in the summertime, he's going to try to establish himself. And I think this was the way he did that, and now it's up to him to go find a new coach.
You mentioned that 9-16 record, and what was tough, you mentioned it too, is the 9 of those losses by 30 points or more. I mentioned last Saturday they lost 63-30 at South Florida, and South Florida scored on 4 of its first 5 possessions, held the Hurricanes at 10 yards in their first 4 drives, and a 63-30 blowout Saturday in Tampa. The Bulls piled up 715 yards while building a 42-7 halftime lead. They were out of it early.
Yeah, and it's too bad. I mean, I wrote, Barry Lewis sent me a text message during the game to say, well, this is 56 years from the day that Tulsa lost to the University of Houston 100-6. And, it didn't get to that point, but offensively it almost did, because Houston had, I think, 762 yards of offense against Tulsa in that game in 1968. And then, South Florida had 715, and then that was also, I guess, the second to last game of the Glenn Dobbs era at the University of Tulsa. So it sort of had a lot of parallels, as it turns out.
Now, they have an interim coach. They went to their receivers coach. What do you know about Coach Switzer?
Well, Coach Switzer,
good name.
Yeah, good name. That's right. I think no relation, but he's got a great pedigree. He was an NFL player. He's a really well known on social media. When he was announced as the interim coach, lots of people chimed in from his days at North Carolina as a college receiver, really excited for him to get that opportunity. He turned 30 the first week of November, so he's very inexperienced. It's only his second year coaching, but I tell you what, he won the press conference on Monday when he had his time in front of the media to talk. He was incredible in that situation. He did about 20 minutes. He was really sharp. He said all the right things. And so I don't know if maybe he's a person who they will try to keep on when they do hire a new coach. I think given his inexperience, he won't be in the mix for that job, but he's probably somebody they want to try to keep on. I also think that perhaps one reason they kept him on or promoted him as the interim coach, he's a recruiting coordinator. And so they've got 27 players who they signed in the class of 2024 that was ranked in the top 60 nationally. They've had some, Joseph Williams has had a breakout. They've had a couple of freshman offensive linemen who are starting. Elijah Green on defense has had interceptions in back-to-back games. They have a lot of, really strong freshman players. Right now they have, 12 commitments that they're trying to hang together
right.
as well for the class of 2025. And I think because Switzer, as charismatic as he was in the press conference, you can tell why he's their recruiting coordinator, and you can probably tell why they kept him on to try to keep those guys as together as they can possibly be, despite all the turmoil right now.
You know, Coach Wilson got a lot of support, a lot of accolades from high school coaches in the area, because he really pinpointed and dedicated his recruiting to Oklahoma high school football players.
Yeah, they had a lot of Oklahoma players. They had the most, I guess, in the last couple of years. That was the thing. I guess, you know, Philip Montgomery, he was a Texas guy.
Right,
he had been the coach at Stephenville under Art Briles, you know, assistant under Art Briles. He came up in that environment, and he kind of turned the recruiting focus more toward Texas.
Yeah.
I know Bill Blankenship did a huge job. I mean, Bill Blankenship's motto when he was the head coach here was that he wanted Tulsa to be Oklahoma's school. He wanted players in the state to really believe that they could come here and have a chance and shine. Kevin Wilson was bringing that back a little bit more, and I guess the next coach is going to have some sort of, you know, balance in that regard between making sure that the best players that want to come to Tulsa you can get, but also filling that in with, you know, good players from Texas and then some of the surrounding states, because I think you have to go recruit in some of those other places to be able to get the type of players that you have to win an American Athletic Conference championship, which, you know, according to that, you know, the statement there by Justin Moore, the new athletic director, that's what their goal is.
Queued me up well for that. Let's read this statement. Justin Moore, the Chief Athletic Director and Vice President, and just became the AD officially early in July, had this statement after the firing of Kevin Wilson on Sunday. I want it to be very clear. Football is and will remain a priority at the University of Tulsa. Our goal is to compete at the championship level in the American Athletic Conference. Any given year can open the door to college football playoffs and earn bowl berths. How do you do that? Well, he pointed out a few things. We need unity and collaboration between athletics, the university leadership, and the board of trustees. That, to me, is pointing out we've got to get that science, general science degree back, and that really hurt coaches in the past year.
Well, I think there's some of that, and I think also it's a statement because I guess earlier, maybe a couple of weeks ago, when Temple fired their football coach, they said, well, we're going to reevaluate football, what it means on campus.
Right.
And so Justin Moore sending the message to everybody in the city of Tulsa, maybe even to some faculty members and some people on his campus, saying football is important. We have to have football. We can't drop down a level. We can't do that. None of those things are realistic. We have to have it and be good at it. And those are the ways that you go about doing that. NIL is going to be a huge thing. I know they hired a new senior associate athletic director from A&M who's going to be overseeing some of their NIL efforts. And they want to do that because they're going to have some money probably to keep some of these recruits that they have shined so far this year.
And the AD went on to say we need world-class facilities. The facility is pretty good at TU. They expanded operational budgets, an increase in support staff, and today's landscape, of course, NIL money. And so we need to identify and recruit the right coach for Tulsa football, build a football program that you'll be proud of and one that competes for championships. Kevin Wilson, his future, I imagine a lot of people wanted him for his offensive coordinator. He did a great job at OU and at Ohio State before he came here.
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't get the sense that he's done.
Yeah.
I get the sense that he's going to want to do something again, and maybe as soon as next year in the offensive coordinator space.
Any idea on a buyout? Of course, a private school, but even so.
I would guess it's probably in the $5 million-ish range for the last 3 years of his contract.
Said it 100 times in the show, Michael. How do we get a job like that? Fire you and tell you to go away, and here's $5 million.
Exactly.
Not too bad. All the best for Kevin Wilson and his family, too, certainly. And good luck for the search for a new head football coach at the University of Tulsa. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Right back with Michael Knight. Talk about high school football. It's playoff time, and Oklahoma down to the Final Four.
The Remington Park Casino is always open for jackpot gaming. The winning action never ends. Enjoy great food and drinks in the Bricktown Brewery, open daily at 11 a.m. Simulcast racing is offered every day, featuring North America's best tracks. Visit the Club Remington desk for player card membership and begin earning points and rewards. The jackpots are always flowing. The next one could be yours at Remington Park.
The We Street Ice Center, the coolest place in town, is the only place you can skate like the pros. With 2 rinks, there's always time to strap on the blades and hit the ice. The We Street Ice Center at 43rd and Yale is your family fun destination. Try out the game simulator rooms or hit the arcade. When you get hungry, grab a bite at Puck's Sports Bar and Grill with delicious food, great drink specials, and more. It's Midtown Tulsa's coolest entertainment center. We Street Ice Center, the coolest place in town. Come get your skate on.
This is Angie Nelp, the head women's basketball coach at the University of Tulsa, and you're watching Oklahoma Sports Scene.
Around the clock, throughout eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
Well, now the Oklahoma High School football playoffs are down to the Final Four. And the guy in charge of that for us is Michael Knight, of course, of PrepRedzone.com. And Michael, exciting time of year, and boy, this is really getting right down to the finish, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, when you start the season, obviously everybody has the goal of playing for a state championship. Well, to get to the championship, you got to get to the semifinals. And for a lot of teams, it's a great tradition this week as they get to practice on Thanksgiving. You hear school after school loving to talk about practicing on Thanksgiving because that means you're still playing, which means you still have a shot to win a state title.
Let's start the top 6A1, and of course they're looking for neutral sites for the games.
Yeah, so they're going to be played on Friday at Claremore. It was a doubleheader. A little bit of a controversial decision when it came out on Saturday. Both Broken Arrow and Union decided not to host the semifinal games, which, look, it's a holiday week. I get the reason why, but you wish you would have had a little bit better, and no offense to the people of Claremore, they're great, but you wish you would have had a stadium and atmosphere that's a little more close to what we're expecting from 6A1. Lantow Field in Claremore is a great facility, but again, it's probably going to be standing room only.
1 p.m. game, kickoff number 1, Owasso, 11-0, face number 2, Jenks, 8-3. Then followed by number 4, Bixby, 9-2, against number 5, the surprise in the group there was Ed Memorial, 9-2, and at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and you start with that 1 o'clock game. It's number 1 versus number 2. It's a rematch of earlier in the regular season. I mentioned at the start of the playoffs the Jinx Trojans and how they had a potential revenge tour on their hands. They lost 3 games in the regular season to Union, Owasso, and Bixby. They already took care of business against Union. Now they get Owasso, and Bixby's waiting on the other side of the bracket. They got to take care of business first, but a potential championship game with them. But you look back at that September game, and Owasso absolutely dominated in the second half.
Right.
But people kind of forget that that game was close for the first 2 quarters. And I said it back in September, even despite Jinx starting the season 2-3, pump the brakes. You don't need to panic. We saw this story last year. Jinx had a slow start last season. We saw how that ended. They ended up making it to the state championship game. So they're playing great football right now. Owasso, there's no real knocks against them either. They're perfect. They haven't lost a game this year. So I'm looking forward to a really entertaining game between those two. Both offensive lines are absolutely dominant. Both running games, because of that, are absolutely dominant. It should be a great game to kick off a doubleheader there.
I was at that Union Jinx game at Jinx last weekend, and they have T-shirts and posters in the revenge tour.
Yeah.
While talking about counting it
Yeah,
down.
I mean, look, we'll have Coach Riggs on from Jinx here in the next segment. He's not going to talk about it. He doesn't care anything about it. They're just focused on winning another game and getting an opportunity to compete for a state championship. But both games on Friday in Claremore are going to be good because, look, it's easy on the Tulsa side of the state to overlook a team like Edmond Memorial.
Right.
Edmond Memorial hadn't won a playoff game since 2009 before last week. When Edmond decided to go to a multi-school district back in the 90s, Edmond Memorial as a school had never played in a semifinal before. So you're talking about going up against a team in Bixby that has now made 11 consecutive semifinals, and during that stretch, they've never lost in this round. So it's really easy to overlook Edmond Memorial, but I'm just saying, don't. If you're a Bixby fan, don't, because this team is not like the Edmond Memorial teams in the past. They're senior heavy. They have a great quarterback in David McComb. they are more than capable of pulling the upset. And I do say upset because, let's face it, Bixby has been the class of Oklahoma high school football for a while now.
And don't forget, Memorial has a secret weapon. My granddaughter, Lauren, is a pom-pom girl.
Yeah, look, if she's going to be there, look, they can use all the help that they can get.
All right, now let's talk about 6A2.
Yeah, Muskogee got a bit of a scare last week. They're the defending champs. They're perfect on the season. Putnam City, they did a good job defensively. Muskogee only able to score 14 points. I'm not worried about them. You know, I think that they didn't want to show a whole lot in that quarterfinal game. Just win and move on and put that game in the past, because it's all about this week. They get Stillwater, and it's a rematch of last year's state championship game. The winner moves on to Edmond. It's a matchup of the last two state champions in 6A2. Great matchup there. Stillwater's been playing great football. They were able to get a dominant win last week as well, so good game there. The other side of the bracket, Choctaw and Sand Springs, another good semifinal. Sand Springs is playing out of this world. Their quarterback, Easton Webb, has had a fantastic season, and Choctaw on the other side of it offensively has been dominant this year. Even in the losses, they played a really tough non-district schedule, and against teams like Bixby and a Kansas state champion as well, Choctaw has been able to score points. So I expect a high-scoring game in that Choctaw-Sand Springs matchup. Whoever gets out of there is going to earn that spot in the state championship game.
That 6A2 rematch of the championship last year. Muskogee 11-0, Stillwater 9-2. 7 p.m. that game at Catoosa. Now the Sand Springs, the Choctaw Sand Springs game is 1 p.m. at Wagner, right?
Yeah, they'll play it there. Winners move on to Edmond, and they'll play next week for the gold ball.
Kind of confused about the split in some of these two.
So what happens is, as we mentioned the last couple weeks, how great it's been that UCO is going to host every championship game, right? Well, in order to do that, you're not able to fit it all into 1 week. Otherwise, you're playing a triple header for 4 days in a row. And UCO doesn't want to do that. They want to showcase their facilities. And look, they're paying the OSSA a lot of money to host these championship games. So I understand it. You want to have the best of the best when you're showcasing your facilities to these teams, to these programs and communities. So because of that, there has to be a bye week, which means half of the classes will be off this week, and they'll play their semifinal games next week, like 5A, 4A, both A1 and A2. They'll play their semifinal games next week.
Well, you're going to have your attention, a lot to choose from this weekend.
Yeah, so as I've talked about for the last month or two, I really put a priority on seeing teams that I haven't seen yet.
Right.
So it's really easy to say, how are you not going to Claremore for that doubleheader? How are you not seeing the 6A2 games? There's a lot of good games across Oklahoma, but a couple schools that I haven't seen yet and I want to see before they possibly compete for a state championship. Sulphur in Class 3A. They're 1 win away from a state championship. They're playing Shakota. I haven't seen Sulphur yet. I did see Shakota in the first round against Cassia Hall. They upset the Commandos. They had one of the best wins of last week when they beat Bristow. Elijah Thomas, I told you about him last week. He went off against Bristow, and unfortunately Bristow had their hearts ripped right out of their chest as Elijah Thomas went 75 yards with about 30 seconds left to steal a win in Bristow. 35-32 is the final in that one. He might be the best player in Oklahoma this year.
OU commit, right?
Yeah, he's committed to OU. Really looking forward to seeing him go up against Sulphur. I'm also going to check out Stroud in Class 2A2. They're undefeated. They've looked great. Their offense is averaging about 60 points a game. They're going up against a Davis team that just handed Adair their first and only loss of the year last week. So Davis isn't going to shy away from the fight. I'm looking forward to seeing some great small school football from some programs that are legitimate state championship contenders that I haven't gotten a chance to see yet this year.
Mike, you've got a lot of this talent here in Oklahoma. We have some really great individual players. I'm going to talk with Coach Riggs about it. He's got a kid ready to sign with USC in a week or so, right?
Yeah, Cash Jacobson, he's a senior defensive lineman. He went out to SC. He was committed to South Dakota State for a while now, and then we're going to talk with Coach Riggs about him in the next segment, but he's one of the rare examples of a prospect that has his recruitment blow up during his senior year.
Oh.
Because of the transfer portal, because of the early signing period, because of NIL and all those other things with college football, it has really sped up the recruiting calendar where if you don't have these offers by the time your senior season starts, they're not coming, except if you're Cash Jacobson. That's the one example where it actually paid off. He's, going to sign with USC. He had a really good senior season. He's a dominant defensive lineman. He's not the only really talented player that they have, and it's the reason why they're a state title contender.
Maggie, all about our local talent. I know you got a real kick out of watching Carl Albert grad tear up Alabama last week.
Yeah, look, we joke with, what does OU have to do to compete in the SEC? Recruit more kids from Oklahoma. Yeah. That's what you have to do. That's why you see Xavier Robinson from Carl Albert as a true freshman go for over 100 against Alabama. And if you've been reading Prep Redzone Oklahoma for the last 3 years, we told you that he was that kind of dude. He was our player of the year as a junior. Fantastic kid, fantastic player. Comes from a great program, and so happy to see the success that he's having at the next level.
It's Thanksgiving week. We wish all you a happy Thanksgiving. And I know parents, oh my gosh, you can't practice on Thanksgiving Day. These guys want to practice Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, look, if you have anybody complaining about that, don't invite them. It's as easy as that.
Michael, look forward to the report next week, the semifinals, and then, of course, championship games December 4th through the 6th, and then 11th to 13th, 2 weekends there at UCO, doing a great job over there with that, hosting that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting over there. They've done a great job hosting the last several years. Looking forward to 2 very busy weeks over there in Edmond.
The state championship machine of Jenks Trojans. Talk about them with their head football coach, Keith Riggs. That's next, right after this break on Oklahoma Sportscene.
This holiday season, experience the magic of Midtown Tulsa's indoor winter wonderland at the Wee Street Ice Center, December 13th to January 5th. Skate on the best indoor ice in Tulsa, ride the enchanting train, and experience snow indoors that'll leave you feeling like you're in a winter fairy tale. Kids will love pictures with Santa, plus special holiday activities. Don't miss out on the season's best family fun. For a full list of activities and times, visit WeStreetIceCenter.com, where every day is a snow day.
As the sun rises over eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
And we welcome now to Oklahoma Sportscene the head football coach, the Dinks High School Trojans, number 2 ranked in the state. This coming off an incredible quarterfinal rout of crosstown rival Union. Coach Riggs, good to have you with us here.
Thank you for having me.
My gosh, how did you pull it? Beating Union 42-7 at Jenks last week in the quarterfinals.
Well, our kids played extremely well, on both sides of the ball, special teams included, everything seemed to go our way, but that's a credit to our kids and coaches.
Of course, you started the season by losing to Tulsa Union 9-3 in a strange game in the Backyard Bowl.
Yeah, that was a strange one. Couldn't get, felt like we played really good defensively, but just couldn't get untracked offensively in that game.
Your background, of course, Jenks for more than two decades now, right?
Yeah, 21 years.
Golly. So obviously, the great influence of the late, great Hall of Famer, Alan Trimble.
Yeah, Alan was such a special person. I learned so much from him, probably as much off the field as on the field, but he was a great friend and a great mentor.
7th season as the head football coach of the Trojans. He's got 2 of those gold ball championships of his own, but total-wise, at Jenks, 9. This school has just dominated in this kind of competition, winning championships throughout the decades.
Well, it all started even before Alan. Excellence is a big part of the program. It has been for a long time. We're blessed with great administrative support, great community support, student body and staff support, and kids are willing to work hard every day, and that always going to give you a chance when you have all those things.
Tell us about some of your key players. I know you got a young man who's about ready to sign with the Southern Cal Trojans.
Cash Jacobson will sign here in about a week and a half with USC. He was on a visit out there recently, loved it out there, and really happy for him. His recruiting kind of exploded this fall.
Yeah.
And so, but that's great for him. Katie Jones, our running back, junior, has had an outstanding year. Just gets better and better, and we've, our offensive line, probably the group that has improved the most this year is our offensive line. From the beginning of the year now, they're playing so well. Zach Cox, our center, senior, Javion Anti, another senior guard, Riley Kester, junior tackle, and Malik Craig and Odafe Aruru. Those guys have just done an outstanding job this year.
And the defense, boy, they just totally shut down Union. What a great performance that was by your defense.
They have played really well. Coach Gaylor does a great job with our defense. We've got a lot of experience, a lot of seniors that have played, started 2 and 3 years. Sam Stone, Samaj Stanford, just a sophomore, but it's his second year to start the secondary. Cooper Shockley at corner. Jace Hager, another 3-year starter at linebacker. Of course, Cash, we talked about him. And Jack Wiltshire, who moved over from an offensive starter the last 2 years to defense this year.
All right, now the challenge of number 1 Owasso in the state semifinals. Coming up, the game at Claremore at 1 o'clock this coming Saturday. Friday? Is it Friday or Saturday?
Friday afternoon.
You played them one time. That didn't go so well. Your home field there. Owasso was tied 14-14 at the half, and then Owasso got a few breaks and started rolling along there pretty well.
Yeah, outstanding football team, and we played, I felt like, pretty well the first half. They kind of took control in the second half. They were more physical than us at the line of scrimmage, and that the end result didn't go well for us because of that.
Jenks and Owasso combined, by the way, for 4 of the past 7 Class 6A1 state championships. They have not met in the playoffs, though, since 2020 semifinals, when Jenks beat them up pretty good, 39-15. I bet you've looked at that tape a few times, too.
Well, that was a long time ago, but you can learn from every film. They've kind of got a new personality. Coach Graham has done a great job in his first year as head coach, and offensively, they're very dynamic. They've got a lot of weapons, and they do a great job. Their offensive line is just massive, and they do a great job moving the pile and getting first downs.
The other semifinal game, which will be Friday at 7 o'clock, also at Claremore, number 4 Bixby, 9-2 against number 5, kind of surprised in that group. And Memorial 9-2. They came over here to this side and beat Union on Union's home field.
They did. Their quarterback is an outstanding football player. It really starts with him. But
he committed to Kansas, I think, is that the one?
Committed to Kansas, yes. But he's got a great supporting cast. He's got some really good receivers. They play really good defense in watching that film against Union.
We all just assumed at the start of the year that, well, Bixby is just now the juggernaut. They're going to control things and be dominant. But actually, they've kind of had a little crack in there going, too.
Well, they graduated a lot of talent from the previous year. Coach Montgomery and his staff do such a good job. They're going to be in the hunt every year just because of the approach that they take. And, that Week 10 loss may have woken them up. They did a great job last week, and it'll be interesting to see that game Friday night.
I was at the Jenks Union game there at the Shop Center there at the End Zone Complex. And, well, I was so impressed with, too. What a great support you have from the community and your booster club there.
Oh, absolutely. I could talk our entire time about our booster club and all the things they do for us and how they support us. And it makes a huge difference. It really does. So we're very appreciative of them.
And they feed you pretty good, too, when you're over there.
Yes, they do. Yes, we don't lack for food.
Well, Coach, I wish you all the best. This weekend, 1 o'clock kickoff at Claremore High School. They'll be taking on the number 1 ranked Owasso Rams. And then followed by 7 o'clock, Bixby playing Edmond Memorial. And our man Michael Knight will be out there at PrepRedzone.com covering all that, the report. And I hope next time we see you have a gold ball with you.
Great. I hope so, too. Thank you very much.
Keith Riggs, head football coach. Jenks told you, so you got 2 gold balls. Looking for number 3, and for Jinx, how many for Jinx now total? Oh my gosh.
We're at 18 right now.
Nobody does it better. The Jinx Trojans looking forward to going against Owasso this weekend. And recap of that, of course, next week right here on Oklahoma Sports Scene. Come right back with our Remington Race Report to Oklahoma City. Stay right there.
The Tulsa Oilers return to the ice for another ice melting year.
He shoots, he scores.
Friday, November 29th, 7:05 at the BOK Center. The first 1,000 fans get a Tulsa Oilers beanie, and it's Teddy Bear Toss Night. Bring a new stuffed animal or teddy bear, and when the Oilers score their first goal, throw your bears on the ice. Don't miss the ultimate in fast-paced entertainment.
It's turned over and going the other way.
Get your tickets now at TulsaOilers.com. It's smash-mouth, hard-hitting, pulse-pounding excitement.
Oh, I can feel that one.
Tickets at TulsaOilers.com. This is your town, your team, your Tulsa Oilers hockey are back.
Founded in 1960, Ed Bashira's formal wear and fine clothing has been dressing gentlemen for over half a century. We are family-owned and operated, offering premium brand tuxedos and accessories at our Tulsa store on South Harvard. Bashira's also does made-to-measure suits, sports coats, dress shirts, and slacks, and a top line of sportswear. We do tailoring on-site to assure the perfect fit, so you will look your very best for that special occasion. Ed Bashira's formal wear and fine clothing, an Oklahoma tradition.
Thoroughbred season at Remington Park continues into December with plenty of winning primetime action. The final evening of the season will feature horses trying to reach the 2025 Kentucky Derby by competing in the Springboard Mile. Remington Park's top 2-year-old stakes event of the year leads a stakes-filled program. The normal Remington Park Racing Week is Wednesday through Saturday, first race nightly, 6:30 p.m. Special Monday and Tuesday racing happens in late November at 2:30 p.m. Visit RemingtonPark.com for all post times, group rates, and dining reservations. The Springboard Mile is Remington Park's top 2-year-old stakes event of the season. It's fast approaching on Friday, December 13th. Jolly Samurai is already a 2-time 2-year-old stakes winner this season. Richard Linehan has a look at that horse and his trainer, Danny Pish.
When they walked Jolly Samurai into the Texas Sale Ring in 2023, something screamed, buyers beware. Horseman after horseman ignored the calls of the auctioneer. Might have been Jolly Samurai's attitude and orneriness. Whatever it was, no one is happier than owner Jake Brown of Weatherford, Texas, who picked him up for a song at $8,000. Jolly Samurai has rewarded him, going 3 for 3 with 2 stakes wins and earning $110,196, more than 13 times his purchase price. Trainer Danny Pish from Texas was ready for whatever they brought him.
They had some trouble breaking him. He was a very strong-willed horse, and I think that it was quite the chore to get him going. They finally got him going, and then that's about the time that the floods hit directly after the fires, and they had to evacuate Ruidoso, and he called and said, "Hey, I'm getting some horses out of there. Can I bring horses to your place and lay them up for a few days?" Which he did. And then, but then he was nice enough to say, "Hey, look, you've got the one for me. I'm going to leave these 2 Texas breds with you, one of them being Jolly Samurai."
Jolly Samurai, a 2-year-old Texas-bred chestnut gelding by First Samurai out of the Patio Prado mare Jolly Good, has been impressive in his 3 wins. He is expected to carry the local flag into the Cornerstone race for 2-year-olds on closing night, the $300,000 Springboard Mile. If anyone could handle an ornery horse, it's Pish, who rode bulls as a young cowboy. He had his scary moments on the backs of those 2,000-pound monsters.
Multiple concussions and multiple broke bones. There was one particular incident where I had a brain bleed and they had to life flight me, so I guess that would have been the worst one.
And cowboys ride bulls because?
Well, adrenaline junkie and chicks dig scars.
The question remains, can a Texas-bred bargain basement horse beat Kentucky-bred shipping in from around the country for the Springboard Mile?
Well, they don't know where they're from, so sure. Yeah, I mean, if he's up to it that day, and I think the distance will be all right for him.
All in all, Jolly Samurai, ridden by jockey Rene Diaz, has been a miracle. Consider the fact he barely escaped the fires and floods of Ruidoso, New Mexico in August this year. He was stabled at Ruidoso Downs. Right now, he appears capable of outrunning most horses and anything Mother Nature throws at him.
They're off in the Friday night camp at Remington Park. Friday night, November 22nd at Remington Park, a historical win of sorts took place in the finale. That race was an allowance event at 7 furlongs, featuring a field of 7. Billy D's and neck back then. Gap of 2 more to Okie Smoke, and then a gap of almost 10 to Tigers and Bears, the deep trailer. About 16 out of it with 5 furlongs to go. 22.51 for an opening quarter. They're rolling up front. Time for Truth nose to nose with Mina. Kentucky Dawn to the outside. These three all battling ferociously up front. 2 clear. Victory for Vets, 4th and wide. Another 5 to Willie D's. Then Okie Smoke on the move. Still nothing to the back from Tigers and Bears as they go to the far turn. 3 furlongs to go. 44.97 for the half mile. Mina has a head in front. Kentucky Dawn right there to the outside. Inside Time for Truth. Now Victory for Vets gets into it under Alvarez. 4 wide, but starting to show a bit of a kick here. Only 2 back. Past the quarter pole. Willie D's showing life from the back, so's Okie Smoke, and Tigers and Bears with a ton of work to do. Top of the stretch, Kentucky Dawn and Victory for Vets on the outside. Mina to the inside, and coming on is Okie Smoke 4th. Race on in the finale. It's Victory for Vets now by a head. Kentucky Dawn, Willie D's splitting rivals now coming up for 3rd. Victory for Vets finding more late, and Victory for Vets will get it done by length of change. Victory for Vets with a nice rally off the turn to pull away and win at 7 furlongs in the nightcap on November 22nd. Trained by Brett Calhoun, ridden by Jose Alvarez, the victory for Calhoun was his 456th victory at Remington Park in his career. That moved him up to 4th all-time in the training wins list at Remington. Now Joe Offholder, Donnie Von Hemel, and Steve Asmussen are the only 3 ahead of him at this point. Remington Park Racing starts again on Black Friday, November 29th, and Saturday, November 30th. First race those nights at 6:30 p.m. December is almost here. Remington Park gets back to a Wednesday through Saturday schedule beginning December 4th. First race Wednesday through Saturday that week at 6:30 p.m. In Oklahoma City at Remington Park, I'm Dale Day. Now back to Sports Scene.
We'll be right back to wrap up our Oklahoma Sports Scene show and look ahead to next week. Right back.
Pitch, Casey lines it down the left field line. Drillers win!
Baseball, fireworks, food, and family, it's all in Tulsa at One Oak Field. Score your Drillers season membership today with plans and prices fit for every fan. Whether you want to catch every game or select nights, we know you will have a great time at the ballpark. We're proud to offer a variety of membership options, so don't wait. Contact a Drillers rep who will personally help you find the right plan for you. It's all in Drillville for 2025.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
The Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, home of the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award, is a treasure trove of memorabilia honoring Oklahoma sports legends. For museum hours or to schedule a tour, go to oklahomasportshalloffame.org.
So we'll begin December on Oklahoma Sports Scene with a wrap-up of the Big Four football team's regular season and a special guest from Dallas, Texas. Dallas Radio Hall of Famer Norm Hitzges talks about what's wrong with their Dallas Cowboys. All that next week on Oklahoma Sports Scene. Join us until then, as we always remind you, be a good sport.